Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers, sisters, friends, and the foes out there, and welcome to another episode of the Blood Brothers podcast with your host, Dilly Hussain. Before I introduce today's guest, I want to remind all the avid podcast listeners that you can find this episode on all 3 seasons on all the major audio platforms. And if you're tuning in via YouTube, don't be cheeky. Remember to click subscribe and leave a comment. Today's guest is a very special one. In fact, he was one of our very earliest guests from episode number 7, July 2019. After 5 years, he's returning, and that is none other than our dear brother Shahzad Younas, the founder of formerly MuzMatch, now Muzz, the matrimonial site. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Has it been 5 years?
It's nearly been 5 years.
Wow, mashallah.
5 years ago, you were
Look, now you have a set.
Mashallah. It was my front room before.
Yeah, it was, I remember.
And you had less white hair.
Yeah, trust me,
In
tell me
beard.
about it. I actually looked back and I was like, my God, I was jet black.
You're jet black.
5 years, what does it do?
What's caused the white hair?
Too many legal issues, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
No, let's get straight into it, right? The thing is, when you speak to people about yourself or Muzz, people still say MuzMatch.
Yeah.
Oh, Shahzad Younas, MuzMatch.
I think we will forever be called that name.
Yeah,
the
that
name
name.
I cannot say.
So legally, you can't say it.
I try not to just
Okay, fine.
because, yeah.
But it is what it is, though. People still associate that name.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing Muzz as much. It still is.
It's a colloquial name. We have people who got married on Muzz, like let's say in the last year, and they'll still call it the old name. Still.
Yeah.
We had actually. There's a viral. I think it's Akash comedian. It went viral. It's like 12 million views on YouTube. Where I think there was some lady in the audience, Pakistani woman who was very white skinned.
Yeah.
And he's like, "How did you guys meet?" And she said,
Yeah.
Muslim. And he's like, "Get the hell out of here!" Like you. And he's like, "What are you?" And she goes, "A Pakistani." He's like, "Get the hell," because she looks like an English girl. You
Yeah.
know. But yeah, it's a good sketch if you search it out.
Let's get straight into the lawsuit, right? Massive entity, the Match Group, Match.com. These guys kind of own the kind of matrimonial dating industry sector, right? And if I'm correct, these guys wanted to buy MuzMatch off you previously, right?
Yeah, for sure.
They've made offers to you. What was the biggest offer they made?
I think the fourth one, which was the highest, I think was about 39 or 35. I actually lose track. 35 or 39 million dollars. I think was the
million
peak.
dollars.
Yeah.
And just before we pressed record and started filming, I said to you, sometimes I think about why did Shahzad reject that offer? You know, that's a lot of money.
It
right?
is.
And your response was?
It didn't feel right. I'll tell you. It's not about the money. You realize it's not about the money. It's like
If they offered you $1 billion?
I've said on record, if they offered me $1 billion, I'd say no.
If Match.com offered you $1 billion?
I would say no. So
That's
for
a lot
anyone listening, hold me to account with this recording. Be like, Shaz, you said no. Why? I just think A, life's short. B, on principle, when you know enough about the entity and the you see how they operate. Some will say it's just capitalism. You know, like litigation is just another arm of how people compete. Fine. I just think there's a way of doing business, and it's not a way that I agree with. I just don't think the values are clearly not aligned. You look at it, at the heart of it, they're a listed company. I can't say too much, but for us, I genuinely care about us solving the problem of getting people married. I think a lot of listed companies, you know, some of their products effectively can be just games, right? They're not trying to solve your problem to get you married. I think some of these apps out there literally are games. You know, they're playing on the dopamine hits. They're playing on you just forever on the app swiping away and all that kind of stuff. I think that's the difference. So there's a value disconnect in my eyes. And I just think for us, look, you know, as we know, we're both Muslim here. Marriage is such a big part of our deen, of our culture, of, you know, even just Muslim surviving, right? It's the foundation of a social unit in the Muslim framework. And it's too important, you know, and for us, we have to own it. We have to look after it. And you know, I'm trying to solve this problem. You ask anyone, you ask a Muslim elder, a young person, you know, we have this crisis in our community, crisis of Muslims not getting married, and then crisis of Muslims not staying married. That's a big problem. And, you know, not being in a big-headed way, but genuinely, alhamdulillah, I think, no doubt, I'm sure we've caused a whole load of new issues, perhaps, but we've definitely had the biggest impact. Perhaps. I'm not naive, but we've definitely had the biggest impact in actually solving it for people. No question, of any means out there.
So let's say there was another investor or potential buyer and the values were perhaps more aligned or entirely aligned. Would you then consider such amounts?
I think there probably would be a time, yes, is the honest answer. Like, I've been doing this 10 years now, full-time, alhamdulillah. Full-time. I was doing it a few years before that. That's a quarter of my life, not to give my age away. And there's things I want to do with Muzz and outside of Muzz, for sure. So there will be a point, I'm sure, where it says, right, you know what, I'm happy where we've got to. I'm happy that somebody else can now take this, my baby, on and grow it further. For me, there's so much potential. We'll talk about social network side of things, I'm sure, but there's tons of potential. There's tons of stuff I want to do with Muzz and take it there. Genuinely, I don't spend my days thinking about it. I always say, don't focus on the money, focus on the product. Everything else always comes. If you focus on the money, if you're focusing on, I need to package this up so someone can buy it, forget it. You'll end up building something pretty terrible, to be honest. It's a very short-sighted way of looking at things.
But do you not think, genuinely, bro, do you not think of the financial fruits or rewards of it ever?
And Biggie said it, more money, more problems. I don't, I was a banker before this.
Yes, for those of you who are not going to watch episode 7, I strongly recommend. Shahzad was formerly a banker.
Morgan Stanley.
Morgan Stanley, sorry, yeah. Morgan Stanley.
Yeah, I was there for 9 years, full time. Look, alhamdulillah, even then, I was getting paid way more than I'm getting paid now in my own company. I was doing very well. Again, it's not about the money. I was like, am I happy with my life? What am I doing? And more so, and I genuinely mean this, and it sounds cheesy, but I thought, if I died tomorrow, I'd be gutted if that was the life I had. Like, what did I do? I helped make some rich guys richer, and I still wasn't, what's the point? So I never had a super fancy lifestyle, quite straightforward house and a very boring car, Uber driver's car, to be honest. And that's it. And I'm not, going out shopping doesn't interest me. It never has. It's small things. I'm always a very simple guy. For me, I think I enjoy building things, I enjoy doing things. I've never enjoyed the whole spending it and getting designer X, Y, Z and all that stuff. It's not me.
So, when you refused their final offer, right? Were you anticipating a lawsuit coming?
Not at all. Before that, there were a few minor trademark emails that had been going around between us where they pushed back on X, Y, Z. And it was interesting because in one of they tried to settle with us on the trademarks, and basically they said, and we actually brought this up in our court case. Interestingly, it was a without prejudice letter, and we brought it up, and in the end, they brought it up as well. But they said in this letter, look, we'll tolerate you using our old brand. I guess factually I can describe it. We can tolerate you using the word MuzMatch, and that being your brand.
So, bro, in short, the whole drama was about the word match.
The match in MuzMatch.
The match in MuzMatch.
Yeah, and they were trying to claim that the fact that we had match in MuzMatch, people would think we're part of Match.com.
We're associated.
Yeah, and that we're free riding on their reputation. Yeah. Now, if you ask anyone, especially a young person, they're not on Match.com was something from God knows the 90s, right? They don't even know about it. B, Match.com is not even a leading product anymore. Yeah. For them, Tinder is their beast.
Yes.
So they, I guess, use this as a way just to try and kill us in my eyes. So
was it either we buy you out or we're taking you to court? Is that what it was?
Things are never that explicit. Okay. In the settlement agreement that they tried to have with us, they basically said, as long as if ever you sell to another company that isn't part of Match Group, then we have the right to go after you. But if you, as long as you're part of our world, our companies, then we'll leave you alone and we'll tolerate you using the word MuzMatch. So you're kind of tied in then. Okay. And I just said, look, if you take that clause out, everything else, we made changes to our logo, our color, we made changes, and we even showed it to them saying, are you happy with these changes, right? In terms of the way we had the font and all this kind of stuff. Because we weren't interested in even having the illusion of being part of them. It doesn't help us. For the most part, their products are around casual dating, hookups. It doesn't help us to say, hey, we're part of all their world. Not at all. It was kind of annoying because I remember we had in our court case, we had a landing page that said are you looking, basically I think the phrase was, are you looking for a Muslim Tinder? And then it was this is why we're not a Muslim Tinder. That was literally the page. But then they tried to construe that saying, oh no, you're trying to free ride on Tinder. And we literally just explained why we're not that, So it's kind of crazy how these things can get twisted.
You lost the lawsuit.
We lost it, unfortunately.
How did that make you feel?
I'll tell you, I'm very, in everything I'm pragmatic. When it happened, I'm gutted, but I'm there, it's all good. This was part of the challenge. For me, it's always no regrets. We decided to fight it, and we decided to fight with proper lawyers. We didn't kind of shortcut and go out and cheap on the lawyers and all this, because I wanted to make sure whatever happens, I can look back and say no regrets, we did our best. And alhamdulillah, we did our best. I genuinely think, and anyone, you can watch at least the appeal, I think it's online on YouTube, but we were, in my eyes, way more prepared, way more thorough in our defense, etc. I was gutted that we didn't win, but alhamdulillah, it is what it is. And blessing in disguise. Now we're Muzz, 4-letter domain. It was a miracle how we got that domain. I actually like Muzz now, and especially we're looking at the social network that we're building and all this kind of other stuff. Muzz is just such a nicer name for me to be personally.
Let's rewind a little bit on the kind of like you not wanting to be associated with a kind of brands which were kind of about hookup culture and dating and so like some of your most ardent Muslim critics, at least those who would fall within the more kind of traditional conservative spectrum. I don't really like these terminologies. They would accuse you of contributing towards a culture of dating, hookup culture, not kind of trivializing marriage and making it easy for people to kind of connect under the facade of marriage, but they end up kind of hooking up. And
I mean, look, I hear them out. I think it's a valid criticism. I don't knock it. I think it's personally, I think it's super naive to just. I always find it lazy as a description. Why? I always say, look, for us as a company, if someone is on our app and like I'm here to just hook up, they get blocked. We've got 28 strong, all female support team. If you get reported for stuff like that and we can see it, you're out. We blocked now. People don't realize we blocked, I think, for a last count.
When you say you see it, what do you mean?
Like, so if somebody let's say a lady reports your profile for argument's sake, or someone's profile. If you're chatting to someone and you're like, yeah, I'm just here for something casual. If we could see that in black and white, we block you. We remove you from the platform. We make it quite hard for you to come back. We have, for example, I actually think we're one of the few apps, we have both selfie verification and then we're also checking if you try and register again, is that face someone that we blocked before? You're the same person. So we do a bunch of stuff. So anyway, so we don't turn a blind eye to stuff like that. That's number one. I never pretend it doesn't happen. I'm not naive to go, Muzz is perfect. There's none of that stuff that happens. Of course.
Do you think it's also the case that those who are coming to seek that may find others who are also coming to seek that?
Trust me, it's not just a male problem. But flip side, if you look at the data, overwhelmingly it is a male problem. But there are women who are after that kind of stuff. Undeniably, I've seen it. We've blocked now, I think, over 600,000 accounts on us. 600,000. That's mad when you think about it. And it can be relentless, right? For us, I know what we're about and what we do and don't stand for. And I don't, when I die, inshallah, I want to have good things said about me and about my name and what I've done. That whole world, go somewhere else. I literally say, go somewhere else. Why you come here? And these people, they know because they come. And the first thing they want to do is take the conversation off Muzz because they know we watch it and they know we can track it and use it as evidence. So yeah, for me, it happens. I don't pretend it doesn't, but it's not something that we encourage, stand by, or want on our platform. But one thing you realize, and I realized it super early on when I started Muzz, I still remember it was like, this is like a year into Muzz and I was new to the whole thing. I remember this lady gets in touch saying, someone's reported, someone's made a copy of, someone's used my husband's identity and has made a profile. And I had to look and check and I was like, my God, it is her husband, and how do you tell her that? Oh. I can't tell her that, but I just said the account's been blocked. And that's all I can say. And that's when it hit me. I was like, my God, Muslims, we have the same problems as non-Muslims. We're not that different. We cheat, we mess around, we do all these things, we're not that different. We hope, and I was naive to think, we have a framework, we have guidelines, we adhere to that, and alhamdulillah, I'd like to think I'm quite a practicing guy. Maybe I have that lazy assumption of assuming most Muslims are like me. We're just as diverse.
No, and also, bro, we are human beings.
Of course.
And even, pious, believing, God-fearing Muslims can fall into sin, and they do fall into sin. And they can fall into major sin.
Yeah, for sure.
And that is the fitna of shaitan's waswas.
Yep.
And perhaps a weakness, not perhaps, it would be a weakness on our own spiritual kind of fortification. I mean, you could live 20, 25 years never having an inappropriate or haram relationship with the opposite gender. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, in the journey of, or in the process of finding prospective spouse, you're exposed to something, and without the right guidance and kind of like restrictions in place, a good Muslim can fall into that.
Yeah. I mean, I was going super quick. One thing what apps have done for good and bad, and it's not apps, this is the internet.
Yeah.
What it's allowed for is connections to be made between strangers more easily than ever.
Yes.
Right? With very little barrier.
Yes.
In the old world, you'd be like, Dilly, you'd be like, hey, Shaz, I'm going to introduce you to my friend.
I know someone, yeah,
blah, blah,
genuine
right?
person.
I can vouch, and I'm like, all right, crap, then I need to introduce me. I'm going to have to put some effort in, blah, blah, right? And if I'm not interested or whatever, I don't want to screw up that relationship.
I have to do it nicely. I
let Dilly know, all that. Online, and it's good and bad. Good is, you know, good is, look, you can email a CEO, you can email anyone, right? Like someone quite powerful, quite high up, quite whatever. Everyone's very accessible on the internet, and that's the difference. On the internet, it makes it easy to make a connection, easy to break a connection. Obviously, for Muslims and trying to find a partner, great. It hopefully, inshallah, makes it easier to find a partner.
It has.
Because it has, no question.
Bro, it has.
It has. I mean, yeah, of course. Because if you look at it, for a lot of Muslims, you know, genders are quite segregated, right? In society in general, like how often, apart from your family, your workplace, and maybe friends, how else are you going to meet a girl as a guy? Like literally. So what do apps do? It provides, hopefully, inshallah, a framework for you to do that. Again, I know people on a very religious platform. I know actually the moderator, she used to work, she was a moderator on a very religious platform. And I used to talk to her about, like, what kind of stuff that you see? Because, like, are we just mad here? Do we see all this stuff and you don't? She's like, no, I see the same stuff. I see big bearded guys, very religious guys talking dirty to girls. There you go. And I'm like, wow, so it's not that different.
No, bro, human beings, Habib,
Yeah.
man. You know, I think the story of Barsisa is a perfect example where the best of us can be corrupted and at moments of weaknesses can fall into major sin. Do you think there is still this kind of embarrassment / stigma / awkwardness of saying that you found your spouse online?
I think there is, but it's definitely dropping. I'll tell you that. I think now a lot of people are like, what's the problem?
Yeah.
You know, like, what is the issue? I think definitely before, and you see it with, actually you see it in the way the app works as well. Like the older generation, older men and women, they want their photos hidden and all this stuff. The younger one are like, it's all good. Like, what's the problem? You know, they are the internet generation, right? They were raised with the internet, with sharing as kind of being more open by default. So I do think it's a generational thing. I recommend there's a book called Generations by, she's a PhD doctor, but I actually found it very interesting because it talks about the changes in mindset, attitudes, lifestyles of the different generations, millennials, Gen Z, boomers, silence, which are the even older ones, right? Like the World War II generation. I just find it super fascinating. So I recommend that because it just helps you understand and frame, and especially now, how quickly attitudes and lifestyles and viewpoints have changed, and how much the internet, especially, and apps, etc., have been such a big factor in that.
What's the country with the biggest number of members?
I think it's just about the UK.
And then it's the US?
UK, yeah, US, Canada, France, and then the rest of the world. So yeah, we're very global. I actually think now we're pretty much something like a quarter UK, a quarter Europe, quarter rest of the world, quarter like US, Canada type stuff.
So half of it's still kind of Anglosphere.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah. But the rest of the world piece is growing. So, you know, we just launched 2 days ago, our very first, even as a company, proper TV ad in Pakistan on the TV channels. And it was interesting because we didn't actually talk about Muzz in the ad. We actually talked about, especially for women, the pressure they're under when it comes to the rishta process, the marriage process, and how they're treated or talked about. And the gist of the ad was, look, speak to them. Like, they have a choice. They should have a choice and a voice in who they marry. And that is literally it.
Before we kind of wrap up on the whole kind of MuzMatch and kind of thing, right? Looking back at this kind of journey from MuzMatch to now Muzz, is it really something that you never look back on? Is it just, and you know, the fact that you don't even mention it in conversation, you try to tell you something, is this something where it's like, it's done now, I'm moving on?
It's done. It was done. You know, I'll tell you, I remember when I knew the date we were going to get the decision.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, so, and this is more than 6 months before that, I was like, right, no matter what, whether we win, whether we lose, we have to come out strong. So we worked so hard as a team, brand new website, brand new app, new branding, the whole thing. Like, literally, it was a breath of fresh air. And I said, as soon as we get a decision, whether we win or we lose, we're going to drop it all. Because I want Match Group to fall off the chairs when they see it. And alhamdulillah, I remember when we found the decision we'd lost, we're like, right, let's go. New website, everything was ready, and we just literally flipped a switch.
No moping around.
Nothing, literally. And alhamdulillah, like, I have to admit, the app now, like I said, 9 years in, only now am I happy with the app, how it looks, how it works, how smooth it is. Like, the guys have done such a wicked job. And, you know, up till then, I was never quite happy. Something about the brand, something about the app itself and the design, the way it worked, I just didn't like, you know. So, alhamdulillah, we were ready. And, you know, that was a record month for us then. Like, we had so much press, we had so many people talking about, you know, we interviewed candidates, you know, engineers, marketers. They've heard of us through the lawsuit, you know. So, alhamdulillah, I tell you, maybe it was a bit expensive, right? It cost us $2 million all in, right? On legal fees, on the settlement stuff. And that's not just here. They sued us.
There was this sketch that went viral that got like 12 million views, where I think a lady was asked where she found her spouse.
Yes, yeah.
And she mentioned
exactly.
MuzMatch.
And it's crazy, like the
And that was after the lawsuit.
Yeah, after the lawsuit. So I'm just like, fine. I mean, that's the thing. I think forever customers will always call us by our old name. It just is what it is. You know.
Are you aware of Match Group looking to buy out anyone else kind of within this sector?
So from
or was it just you guys?
No, from my understanding, they have bought our leading competitors. So remember, first they bought an Egyptian startup, Hawaii. I think it was called Harmonica back then.
Yeah.
They bought it. They tried to compete against us, and I think they struggled, and they ended up shutting it down. I think more recently now they've bought our leading one.
Okay.
So people should do their homework on where their data is going and yeah, I guess who's involved in the apps that they're using. Match Group specifically, I think even now they have an activist investor, Elliott Investors, I think, Elliott Management or something,
Yeah.
which I believe even from my own research, to be honest, but looking, I believe they're a pro-Zionist investment agency. Look, whether you like it or not, there are a lot of companies, and not just companies, but investment arms, especially in Silicon Valley and even in New York, etc., that contribute, that support Israel and the IDF. No question. There's lots. So, you know, we've had, I lose track of.
And then you had investors as well.
We've had investors.
Sorry,
even this week. Yeah. So even this week I had an investor contact us, and they were a good investor. They're well known. So, you know, if you're a startup, you'd be like, I'd love to have these guys on board. And then I saw they had offices in Israel, so I asked the question. I was like, okay, do you guys support what's going on in Israel and the actions of the IDF? And they actually ignored me. And so literally 2 days ago, I've replied back saying, it would be nice to have an update on this. But we've had other investors literally tell us, we're not going to agree on this, let's just leave it. And I'm like, fine, they're not the investors for us. So for me, it's important. We've had, and I'm not just hyping this up, you know, we've had very generous offers of investment at valuations that would have been amazing for us. You know, really would have moved the needle. And when I found out, I just said, no, can't do it. Sorry. And we walked away.
Your solidarity with Palestinians and the Palestinian cause, is that something which I mean, at least in recent months, since October the 7th, is that something you wear on your sleeve?
I am very unashamed about it. Why? Like, I don't knock other people who have to keep quiet about it. Everyone's got their own situation.
Yeah.
You know, work or whatever they're having to juggle.
Why have you chosen to be
in short, because I can.
Yeah.
Like, alhamdulillah, I don't really... You know, I don't have a boss as such. You're in a bit of a privileged position when you're like that. Obviously, I have some, whether I like it, it sounds weird. I love tech, but I don't really like social media. I don't really like being so public. But I know whether I like it or not, I have a platform. And so for me, it's like, what do you do with it? And I use it to share stuff that I think is important. So like, go on my Twitter, you'll see I'm unashamedly sharing information about what's going on in Gaza, in the genocide, even before all of this, about what's going on in Palestine and the theft of land and all that kind of stuff. So for me, it's important that at the very minimum, just educate people and spread the knowledge, right? It's exactly why, for argument's sake, why they want TikTok shut down. Because they don't want the new generation knowing about, truly asking the questions and sharing, well, this doesn't make sense. Why is the US giving billions to Israel? Why do Israelis have, for example, free healthcare, education, all this kind of stuff, when in the US they don't have it? Like, if you look at it, it would actually drive you mad going, hold on, are we getting played here?
Absolutely.
You know, if I was an American, I'd be like, well, this makes no sense. Why am I supporting a regime, a country, spending billions, and this is the mad thing, right? So they spend billions giving them aid, and then on top of that, US companies are then selling arms to Israel, right? And Israel are buying those arms with the aid that the US are giving them.
So basically,
I mean, it's mad when you think about it. It's actually crazy.
They're buying American weapons with American aid.
Yeah.
Because the 3 billion or 7 billion that they receive annually, that's not even from private arms company, right? This is American taxpayers' money that's going straight into the Israeli regime, from which they can now source and procure weapons. And who has the most sophisticated weaponry in the world? The Americans.
Yeah. And it's crazy.
So they buy American weapons with American taxpayers' money.
Yeah. And then so that's why you see the double-faced nature, where the US we're not happy with what Israel's doing in Rafah, etc. Sure. It's all talk, because at the same time they're doing arms deals.
It's a US-funded genocide. Bro.
Exactly, and it is, and it's the same thing. So I always find it, and this is, I think, what's interesting when we talk about TikTok, right? For all the evils of TikTok, and trust me, there are a lot. I remember when TikTok first started, and I installed it for 20 minutes, literally, and I was like, oh my god, this thing is a drug, and it's bad for you. Like, literally, I still remember, it was like within 2 seconds, it's dancing girls and stuff like that, and I was like, what is this? And I could see, I was like, no thanks, and didn't install it. Like, I deleted it, never installed it since then. And I don't want to.
By the way, a quick side question. I'm asking because I thought can China control what type of algorithmic content one part of the world can receive and what they receive domestically? Can you do such a thing from your experience in tech and all that kind of stuff?
Okay, so if I look at it, just forget TikTok out the equation. If I look at it on a technical basis, of course.
You can.
It's very easy. And look, we have a social network, right? And I'll tell you, so we've written a very basic algorithm to try and determine the feed, right? What posts we should show, etc. And even we had a conscious issue, I guess, of sometimes, it's proven, negativity, toxicity yields more interaction, right? Because it gets people angry, it gets people enraged. Hence why Facebook have the same
Rage baiting content.
All of that. And whether you like it or not, it's kind of like if you go on an app store, you'll read more, not even for us, but you'll read more negative reviews than positive because people go out the way to leave a negative one. Whereas I still remember, we had someone who found their partner and left us 1 star. And they were like, found my partner, 1 star. I'm like, what the hell do we need to do for 4? It's crazy. But so in theory, it's very easy for China or any organization to say, right, for this population, we're going to have this nature of a feed. And we want to show this kind of content. And for this population, this other kind of content.
Crazy,
so
man.
I'm sometimes a bit of a conspiracy theorist, but I do think warfare has gotten really smart. If you look at it, China, Russia, etc., the best thing you can do, really, in my eyes, twofold. Let's say for the West, if they, this is my understanding of the world. But if you want to destabilize the West, if that's what they're doing, you destabilize what is the social fabric of society.
Family,
right? The family unit,
marriage,
and marriage, education, the
children,
whole thing.
Children.
Yeah, the whole process, right? And if you can destabilize that, and then what you also do is you distract that country and the youth from all the real issues of the world.
Yeah.
So they're fighting over all this silly stuff, you would argue, right? Well, the bigger picture is, they're getting cleaned out. You look at America, their wealth, I've always found it, and this is why I've always struggled with the US as an entity, because from my understanding of it, it's one of the most corrupt countries in the world. And what do I mean by that? It's because everything that can be corrupted by private enterprise has been. Education, schooling, the food system, the health system, the political system,
the prison system,
like
the military system.
The military, there's nothing untouched. And that's why sometimes you look at Europe, and I'm sure, trust me, Europe has plenty of dodgy stuff as well, but it has more of an element of socialism where they're like, actually, is this good for the people? No, therefore let's not do it. Small examples, very small example. We talked about like the iPhone having the USB-C charging, right? Small example. And why the EU enforced it? Because they're like, it's such a waste to have all these plugs or the electronic waste. It's a small example, but there are lots of examples like that. I think they had one recently where in the EU, the bottle caps are now attached to the bottle. Now people hate it because it's annoying, blah, blah. But I'm like, okay, whether you like it or not, it's better than nothing. They're doing something because they're like, no, there's a greater good here than just making more money. And it probably costs the bottle manufacturers a tiny bit more to have the bottle lid attached to the bottle.
Probably it's socialist,
Hey, look, but I'm for it because I do think, in general, look, we have big problems. Climate is just one, right?
Yeah.
We've got big problems hitting us all, and if you leave it to people's own devices, by nature we're all selfish. Of course we are, right? By nature, do we truly care about the next man? No, we care about ourselves. And obviously, in my eyes, the US is the extreme of that, right? And probably bits of Europe are slightly less so, where they're like, I'll pay 50% tax because I can see the benefit of that. I can see a good healthcare system. I can see a good transport system. I can see for the greater society, I have safety. I have all this kind of stuff. For me, that's great. That's, in theory, it's an Islamic system, right? Everyone pays, everyone contributes to build what is a safe society. And for me, that's the value. I think I saw a clip. Some guy in Dubai, and he's like, where people tell us that,
you lot pay 40% in taxes.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, I don't understand it. You're paying 40% tax for what? A terrible education, no safety, no healthcare, blah, blah, blah. Like here, all right, you don't have taxes, but you pay for all those things, and they're amazing.
Digressing, they'll count and say that the populations are much bigger, though.
Of course, yeah. And like
America,
the US is...
America 350, UK's around 70.
Yeah.
Dubai, the UAE barely has its own indigenous...
But you're correct, but equally, those things scale. The US as an economy is X times the size of... It's
Absolutely.
still a world-leading economy.
Yeah.
But if you look at it strategically now, not to go too political in it, look at how much money they've printed since COVID. It's mad. And since, probably in the last 100 years, you plot that chart, the chart is out of control now. The interest payments and debt that they have, it's actually crazy. And you're like, where's the end? You're literally scratching your head going, where's the end game here?
But on simpleton terms, is it not the case? I know we're kind of going into global neoliberal politics and economics. Is it not the case that America can do it because ultimately the entire global economy is pinned on the dollar, and ultimately they print the dollars that
of course
is needed to run the world?
It's true. That's the power they have, and that's why anyone who goes against that, they end up facing issues. I just think we're kind of looking ahead to interesting and I would say dangerous times, because if you look at it now, we're we went from let's call it I would say the early Tony Blair era, right? For all the ills of Tony Blair. But the place the world was in, economically was doing well. People were doing well.
Are you talking about pre-recession?
Yes, this probably would have been...
Pre-2008, pre-2009.
Yeah, probably pre-2008, right? Good times, right? Everyone was doing well. We had relative peace relative peace in the world. Look at it now. Like, look at it, how quickly things escalate. And, we're not, at the point potentially where if China do start looking at Taiwan, you've got a whole new... And, for them, if you look at it and, you realize, while the US is in a mess with Biden and Trump and all this stuff, Russia are doing what they want.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's interesting.
Things are shifting.
Yeah, things are shifting. It's scary at the same time.
Absolutely.
And throughout all of this, you've got a shift in where the economic powers are, India, China, etc. And I do find it I find it fascinating. But yeah.
Do you think AI will ever enter the matrimonial app sector?
I think yes, and I'm very apprehensive about it, even on a personal level. There was a talk, there was a clip that went viral from the ex-Bumble CEO, Whitney Wolfe, where she talked about the role of AI in dating apps, and effectively what she was saying was you would have an AI and somebody else would have an AI. The AIs will be talking to each other to figure out if you two are a good match. Yeah. And I'm like, my God, that's depressing. Like, literally, I just, and a lot of
that's quite dystopian.
It is. And like for me, so here's where I stand on it. If you look at dating apps, I use that word. If you look at dating apps, people's biggest problem is inauthenticity, right? It's, somebody has filtered photos, guys and girls now, right? Filtered photos. It's hard to find out who's genuine, right? And you would say, all right, the only way I can figure someone out is I'll start talking to them. And I find out, are they nice? What's their manner?
Actually getting to know them.
Get to know them.
Yeah.
Now, if you add in a level of AI in there, which is suggesting, hey, talk about this, maybe word it like this, chat GPT, etc., right? Then you're talking to, now you're not talking to a person. You're talking to somebody else. Not even someone else, something else.
Who's formulating and articulating
an ideal response.
Ideal response.
It just adds to another level of inauthenticity to the whole thing.
Any pros to it? Potentially.
You would argue some pros. Pros could be, and particularly maybe helping men, maybe Muslim men you would argue, but helping men be more empathetic in some ways, or being more thoughtful about responses. Possibly that's so it helps educate and train them. How do I talk better? Because there are plenty of Muslim men, let's say, who don't know how to talk to women. I've seen it day in, day out, right? So you're like, great, potentially it could help on that.
Why do you think that is?
I think they've not. I actually think we give ourselves a hard time. If you look at it for the most part,
Is it because it's not something that many Muslim men do?
We don't have the whole boyfriend girlfriend thing. Yeah, that culture we don't have. So
or even girl mates.
Oh, all that. Yeah, really,
mates,
exactly.
all
right?
opposite gender mates.
Yeah. So we don't really have that as a big thing.
Like Dad Emma's coming round. Yeah. Samara's coming round to chill out for
none
a
of
couple
that.
hours.
And remember, and like so for people who do, there is a social education, right? And even they might have a boyfriend, they might live with each other and all that stuff. So you learn about all these things. For a guy, how do I live with a woman, right? And you might not be married, fine, but there's an whether you like it or not, there's an education, and on you deal with conflict, you deal with all these kind of things. Whereas for Muslims, it's like, right, I'm going to start talking to a girl because I want to get married, but I don't know how to, and this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and then we're going to get married and live together. And oh my God, it's now she's not used to it, I'm not used to it. We're gonna fight and blah blah blah. You have all these kind of issues. So I do think we give ourselves a hard time. I do think there's definitely a role in the community to be a bit more understanding, a bit more helpful to the whole situation. And to educate.
And socialization at a young age to know what marriage may look like.
Exactly.
Living with someone is the reality.
The practical reality.
Yeah.
What we teach the religious side. We don't teach the practical human relationship side. How to have a relationship with someone. All this, we don't teach it. And these are big problems. This is what we should be teaching, You
said that, you're kind of your own boss. Therefore, you have the freedom to kind of be outspoken about stuff like Palestine and so forth. One of your critics, who also finds himself in the same sector as yourself, shares the same second name as yourself.
Spelt wrong.
Spelt wrong. Described you in a recent podcast as a troll.
Yeah.
And that's Adeem Younis from singlemuslim.com. I think that was linked to the stuff that you were posting about penny appeal, a lot of which later, even though it wasn't directly related to what you were saying per se, but so many kind of controversies that have now been proven as a matter of fact, whether it's to do with the orphanage in, I think it was Gambia.
Yeah, it was in Gambia.
They're kind of inappropriate and I think even illegal use of texting and SMS spamming. I mean, we had the regulator message DM us. I mean, bloody hell, never in 10 years have we had a regulator DM 5 Pillars saying, hey guys, this has just happened. Do you want to cover it?
And I found it more, I remember that, I read it, and I found it more shameless. They said, it was Ofcom, right?
Yeah.
Ofcom said, whilst we were investigating, they were still doing it.
They're still doing it. It's crazy.
I was like, wow.
Brothers and sisters and friends, I see that you're enjoying the content. How come you've not clicked subscribe to the 5 Pillars YouTube channel? And if you're watching via Rumble, how come you've not subscribed on our Rumble channel? If you like the content, you like the guests, you like what we're talking about, it's absolutely inexcusable and cheeky for you not to click subscribe. Thank you and jazakallah khair.
There you go.
So look, he called you a troll, and you know some of the kind of like anonymous accounts and supporters were like, "Oh, this is just Shahzad taking shots at a competitor. He's hating and all that kind of stuff." Any of your thoughts on that? Have you ever met Adeem, by the way?
Yeah, once. I think once.
Was it pleasant? Was it?
I just said hi. I mean, look. I'll talk with anyone. I don't care.
So YouTube and misfit fights is the big thing these days. Do you think you and Adeem could have it out?
I mean, look, this is the mad thing, right? I don't really care for him as a it's not a personal thing, right? I care about what's going on and what is an entity that, in my eyes, causes a lot of damage to the Muslim charity sector. You ask most people about Muslim charities, unfortunately, there's a very negative perception of them, right?
A penny of people would probably be ranking their number one.
No question.
That's not even a controversial thing to say now. All. If you ask someone from the big Muslim charities in the UK, which ones are the ones that are kind of marred with controversies, they will say penny.
Time and time, and because it's time and time. I think they won probably their third charity commission investigation. Had one in November, talking exactly of all the things I've been saying: governance, about lack of controls, lack of oversight, poor management, etc. Like the same things cropping up time and time again. And I was really annoyed about I listened to that podcast where you called me a troll, and I expected nothing less. I actually listened, and if you listen carefully,
was there any truth in it?
There was well, he didn't actually respond to any of the allegations at all.
He never explained. He just dismissed it.
He dismissed it and said, "Oh, this guy's a troll," and move on. And I just think that's a rubbish answer, right? I've asked one clear, and I'll ask all your viewers to do one thing: email info@pennyappeal.org and ask them just a simple question. Since the inception of Penny Appeal, how much money has gone to companies connected to founders or trustees of Penny Appeal, right? That's all you got to ask. One question. You'll see it's in the millions. And why? And this is what I'm saying. This is not about me. It's not about personal thing. I don't care. I literally don't care. If you actually just take the time to look at their accounts, that's all you have to do. Black and white in their accounts. X amount of money goes to this company. X amount of money goes to that company. By the way, this company is linked to Adeem Younis. This company is linked to, he's either a trustee, founder, or part owner of this company. The biggest elephant in the room, which I've never understood and no one's given me a clear answer to, is what the hell is British Muslim TV? You look at the accounts, there's this company, Esplanade Media, I think it's called, right? Yeah. Penny Appeal this is donor funds. This is your money that people have donated. I think in total, when I last checked, about over £4 million. For
advertising, I think.
Goes into marketing. This British Muslim TV. Do people know, or are people happy that, my money's going into a TV station that probably no one watches anyway, but fine. Goes into that. Then that TV channel is then giving money to Adeem Younis' companies. That TV channel is then showing ads and documentaries on single Muslim. Now, if I don't see a conflict of interest there, it's in black and white. What the hell? Not only that, there's another company, I think it's called MB Trading House, which I believe is Adeem Younis and a friend of his, that millions have gone to as well. Why? Like, literally, why? Why is that company that you have a trustee receiving money from the charity that they are trustee of?
What initiated this within yourself?
I think it was just, it bugs me, I've been really bothered about the Muslim charity scene. I've donated to various charities, thankfully never Penny Appeal. I've donated to various charities, and it always bothers me. I always try and do my research on them, and there have been a few charities I've donated to that I've stopped donating to because I don't like how they're operating now. I don't like how their costs are getting a little bit silly and what they're spending on, right? Penny Appeal just stuck out because I had people coming to me out of the blue saying, "Oh man, X, Y, Z about Penny Appeal. They used to work there," telling me stuff. And I'm like, first it was a few people, and I'd say, "Go on the record. Why are you telling me? Like, I've got nothing to do with it." And no one was going on the record, literally. And they started piling up, and I'm like, okay, there's something definitely here. More people have been reaching out to me. I'm begging them, please go on the record. Like, I don't work there. I have...
A lot of the whistleblowers don't want to go on record, bro.
And why? They tell me harassment, intimidation, all this kind of stuff. Like, it's a bit scary for these people. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? So then I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to spend the time. I'm going to look at the accounts. What's public? What can I understand? And then I was kind of shocked at just how it's literally in your face, And that's why I've said, you ask them, and this is why I know things are dodgy, right? I asked Penny Peel the exact question. Got a bunch of questions. Can you explain where this money is going to, right? Who are these companies and why is money going to these places? We're talking millions of pounds, in excess of, I think, 6 million total, going to some form of companies linked to Adeem Younis, right? I literally asked why and where, and is this true? What did they do? They blocked my account. They ignored me. When all this kicked off in, I think it was not Ramadan this year, previous year, right?
Yeah, 2022.
I had a middle person saying, oh, you know what? It was really blowing up. I think the Twitter post had 500,000 people viewing it, right? Oh, the CEO, you know, they kind of want to meet you and try and put some of this to bed. And initially I was like, yeah, fine, I'll meet. And then I said, no, hold up, actually. I backtracked. I said, no, I won't meet. I said, first, I've got a bunch of questions. They can answer the questions. Then we'll meet to discuss the answers. I said, they do that? Fine. Oh, yeah, fine. All sounds good. Send him an email. Nothing. Send him another email. I think I'm on 7 or 8 emails now. I've been ignored on each one. So for me, it tells me everything about how this charity operates, right? They, at the same time, I remember when that happened, they started suing other people. They sent legal threats to people saying, delete your tweet talking about us.
They did, yeah.
They didn't send me any, but they sent other people. They were forwarding it to me going, Shahz, this is what's happening. This is the intimidation. And who pays for the lawyer? Donations. It's mad. And so I just look at it going, this practice. And remember, they had on the BBC, they had a BBC article about a lady who donated, I think, £50,000 for some orphanage or something. And for years she chased up, got nothing back. Was told, no, you can't have the money back. And then it was a bit of a PR. I don't know. I found the whole thing a little bit strange because BBC Verify, which is the fact-checking arm of the BBC, went to verify and said, yep, we couldn't find completed constructions, blah, blah, blah.
40k.
Yeah, something like that. And then in the end, somehow, and I don't know the ins and outs of this, and I'd love to, unfortunately, I've got better things to do right now, but I'd love to figure it out. But somehow they came up with some sort of building and said, oh, here's your orphanage. And they flew her out and did a whole PR shoot and tried to kind of save face with it. Something about that whole thing. I just want to know, well, what did BBC Verify find? What was all that about? Would
we see a similar kind of energy if you saw this kind of malpractice elsewhere from any other charity?
Genuinely, if I had so many people coming to me, totally. I'll tell you, and people think, oh, it's because they're competitors to Single Muslim. I'll tell you one thing straight. They've not been a competitor for us for years. Like, it sounds bad.
Was there ever a time they were?
Early on, yeah. Early on, no question. I was like looking at them because they were, I mean, fair play. They were the biggest website in the UK. They were still relatively small because the whole thing was quite new. And I give credit where credit's due. At the time, novel product. But then I remember the whole reason I even set up my own website and then app, because I was like, my God, this hasn't changed. That website, whatever, hasn't changed in 10 years. And the world's moved on. Like, there was no investment. So fine, take the money. And I believe it was making good money, but fine, take the money. But there was no investment in the product. How do I change? You know, we've changed the game.
So you do not see singlemuslim.com as a competitor remotely?
I can't remember the last time I went on their website. Can't remember I looked at any competitor data about them. I don't even look at them. That's not a knock on them. It's just, for me, on a personal level, just irrelevant. I don't bog myself down looking at stuff like that. I'm looking at the future. I look at what's Muzz, what are we about, what do we do? Alhamdulillah, people literally, whether we like it or not, they copy us. They copy us almost to the letter, right? Of things that we do, the features we have in the app, etc. It's kind of mad, the level of imitation, let's say, that goes on.
They say imitation is the best type of compliment.
Exactly, right? And I'll take it. But that's how I look at business, and that's how I look at what we do. For me, I want to make sure, I want to try things that haven't been done. We get some things right, some things wrong. But I want to be trying new things. I want to genuinely solve the problem, And I literally say to the team, how do we get people married? How do we solve the problem? The stuff about the way our app works right now, which even I'm not happy with. I'm like, nah, I don't think that's quite the right way now. Is the world really, in my eyes, I'm like, in 5 years' time, will the world still be swiping profiles and all that? I'm not convinced.
Things are always moving.
Always. And, for me, and they always say, if you don't disrupt yourself, somebody else will.
Bringing the podcast kind of to a close, let's talk about yourself and how much of yourself reflects on the app. Right? Now, we've had chinwags via WhatsApp quite often, right? And I think within a month of October the 7th, when the genocide had started, I think you pinged me a message to give me a bit of feedback about an event.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And I snapped back at you.
Yeah, you did.
And then I told you afterwards that I love you and I'm sorry, right? Yeah. But it was intense time. Like, people were being killed and people, everyone was all over the place, and our time and attention is still very much focused around Gaza and the genocide there. But I remember the exchange that we had, and whenever we do have exchanges,
I already forgotten about it. By the way,
it's always brotherly, it's always laughs and banter, right? Some have said, at least online, Muzz and Shahzad, a bit of a liberal, hippie, progressive kind of all of that.
Yeah.
How much of it is True. Like how many? Do you put yourself on a spectrum?
I don't like it.
No one likes putting themselves on a spectrum. But the spectrum exists nonetheless.
Yeah, it does whether I like it or not. Probably I am. Probably I'm more leaning on the liberal side. I think. What do I mean by that? I'm probably deep down. I don't talk about this as person.
Tell us some of your famous scholars then.
Dude,
the one that you like.
Sheikh Hamza Yusuf. I've been like so big fan.
Okay.
Why do I like him? I don't know. I listen to quite a few. I'd no doubt listen to him a lot more. I'm probably more aligned like I'm more on the spiritual side. I don't want to say Sufi thing and all that. I don't think he would say he is either, but whatever. I'm definitely more on the spiritual side. I like keeping things simple. I don't like to get too involved in politics because politics itself is a distraction to a degree, personally. For me, I always think there's a lot of internal stuff we all have to fix. And I'm like, if we all just fixed that and focused on that a lot more than we focus on some other things sometimes, the world would be in a better place, right? And that's sometimes I like to keep things simple in my life. That's sometimes how I look at it. I would say, probably I'm a bit more liberal understanding. I'm less hardcore than others. You know, if I compare me and you, I'll put you way more in the consensus. Of course I would, right? Because there's stuff that you say and do, I'm like, I don't agree with this, you know? And I'm very aware and it's all good. I'll tell you straight about things like you said, right? Which I have, where I'm like, I think you're being an idiot with this, Dilly. Why
I've told you about your adverts.
And you have, and it's all good. Like I get it, and like I've never assumed my way's right, yours wrong, and vice versa.
When you watch this is my podcast, I'll get to ask you,
well, where's the mute button on this thing?
When you get your podcast, you can bring me on and ask you. But look, let's talk about some of the marketing, right?
Yeah, of course.
You know, and I think you acknowledge yourself, and you said it earlier, that look, there's more kind of conservative matrimonial sites and platforms, right? So you know that the biggest one out there yourselves, mashallah, you position yourself on a particular spectrum, and naturally someone who founded it, Muzz is your baby. In the same way that 5 Pillars is my baby. There will always be an element of a reflection of our personality and our character. Even if it's a little, it'll always be there, especially if it's something you created, you founded, you harnessed it, you developed it, you moved it along. Given that, how much of your marketing is tailored around more of a kind of progressive, liberal audience?
But
it feels very American.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Interesting. It's weird because Americans go, "You guys are so British."
Really?
Yeah. They say we are so British.
I've been Muzz.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I've spoken to those within the conservative circles and traditional circles, it's an American vibe.
Interesting.
Okay.
I swear, first time I've heard that. I'll take it.
And
I don't know if that's good or bad.
And the Yankee says too British.
Yeah. They say like you guys are so British, like it hurts, you know.
Okay.
I would definitely say, look, I do think the brand, look, we're playful as a company. We poke fun at a few things, of course. We definitely try and push it a little bit to the end. That's me. That's my nature, right? I'm a bit of a rebel. I like taking risks in life. I'm lighthearted. I don't take things too seriously. People can get very heavy about all of this.
Do you ever seek scholarly advice?
Not enough is the honest answer. I think some scholars, I'm in touch with some scholars, they give me advice. I'm not stupid enough to.
You ever reached out to Hamza Yusuf for advice?
If only, man. I'd love to. I don't think I have time for us, but I would love to. Like I actually speaking to him about it, and he was like, I can see why it's needed. You know, he could see the problem, right? That of course we have to in some way, as imperfect as we are, we have to help young Muslims get married, right, and find each other, because we got a whole world of pain ahead, right? So I do think, there's an element of the brand, etc., that does reflect me. People who know me are like, I saw the funny ads on the tube, and I heard it, I read it in your voice, because they know. And some of these lines a lot of the lines have come from me, right? There was one, interestingly, and I was a bit torn on this of how to think about it. So there was one we did, don't get your niqabs in a twist, right? And I had, I think it was an imam, somehow got my phone number, and he calls me out of the blue. I had no idea, and he was like, "Is this Shahzad?" I'm like, I get random number calls sometimes. I'm like, "Yeah, who's this?" I was like, "I'm my mom." Blah blah blah. He said, "I saw this, and niqab is a very heavy word, and it's taking the mick basically." And I was torn in it. It bugged my mind. I was like, was it really bad? I was like in my head, it was like,
how convinced were you of the nasiha?
I could understand his viewpoint,
because he would have basically said that nikah is something that's blessed, is something that's sacred. Allah talks about in the Quran, and you've associated with God. Don't get your knickers in a twist, which is a Western.
Which is a Western thing. But what is it? It's like, don't stress yourself out, and that's what we're trying to say is, when it comes to marriage, don't stress yourself out, literally, right? And so it's a multiple play on words. Like, I think Brits do it better than most in terms of play on words and banter like that, right? And so we only ran it here, by the way.
Do you think British Muslims are? I know we're definitely not a kind of homogenous group. There's a variety, and there's a diversity, and there's cultural differences and so forth. But as a kind of general grouping, do you think British Muslims are more kind of conservative than American Muslims?
Overall, yeah.
Yeah.
I have seen that. I've been to the States and here a lot. I think, I mean, it's twofold. I think American Muslims are a lot more ethnically diverse. British Muslims, because of the empire, were mostly
60 to 65% is India, Pakistan, or Bangladesh.
yeah, probably more. I would hazard it's more. If I look even at the data on Muzz, same thing, right?
I think census said it was between 60 to 65.
Is it? Okay,
Pakistan,
cool.
Bangladesh, India.
Yeah. Whereas in the US, it's a lot lower. They've got a big Arab population, African American population, etc., etc. So it's very different on that. I think probably the UK Muslims, because we're a lot more. 3 big cities, right? Manchester, Birmingham, London. That's 8% of the Muslims. Yeah. So you're a lot more in an enclosed space, if you will. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. It can lead to.
It has its pros and cons, bro.
It does. It does. I mean, you speak to American Muslims, they'll talk about how lonely it is, and how spread out they are. Because I remember this shocked me when I first started Muzz. I always had this assumption that the US is huge and there's tons of Muslims there. They have 4 million Muslims in the US. We have 4 million Muslims here in the UK.
And that's nothing in a population that's 352 million.
And on that geographic mass.
Massive.
Right? So that's when you realise how difficult it is for Muslims there. So anyway, I just think in general, we're a lot more... We've built up our institutions, halal food, our schooling, the whole thing. All that. You know what, alhamdulillah, if you look at it, and I always say, if you're people who give stick to governments and all that, and especially abroad, I always say, you have no idea how good it is being a Muslim in the UK. Go to France, go to most other countries.
100%.
You'll realise here, you can do Jummah, you can do all these things relatively peacefully.
The sisters can cover.
All of that, right? It is amazing. So I always say, alhamdulillah, take your blessings, right? It's not that you should accept anything now, let people walk over you, not at all. Like, all these things have been hard fought. You know, you look at, and whether you like it or not, and I think overall it's a good thing. There are more Muslim politicians, more Muslim people, councillors, all these people in these places, right? Now you can, and I do think sometimes unduly we give them an extra hard time because they're Muslim, right? Remember, they're not the same practicing. We're not all at the same practicing level.
Do you think Gaza's going to shift that in the upcoming general elections?
Do I think, sorry?
Do you think Muslims are going to punish the Muslim politicians that didn't vote for
I think this is, so I do think this is going to be interesting. If we don't now, Lord knows when we ever will. Because I remember hearing this in the last election, punch the Tories and all that. We had Muslims voting for the Tories. I was like, I give up. Like,
I think something might happen this general election.
I think, inshallah, it should.
There'll be a lot of dethroning, I think.
Yeah, for sure. The flip side is, and this will happen, I can definitely see Labour don't get a strong majority. And we have, I mean, this country has, since Brexit, in all honesty, really, actually, if you look at it, it was really since financial crisis. That was the trigger. This country's only gone backwards, economically in so many metrics. Brexit just accelerated some of that, and it's really bad because you see. We're not. What are you? I'm an northerner.
I'm southerner.
Sorry, man. Sorry to hear that. But I'm a northerner, right? You see towns up north.
East Anglia, actually.
Oh, all right.
East Anglia, actually.
You see towns. I mean, London's another world, but you see outside of London, you see towns like decimated, and it's brutal. It literally is brutal. You're like, my God, like when does this get fixed? I
actually saw it on Twitter recently. Someone tweeted, there goes, Britain is not the 6th or 7th biggest economy in the world. London is.
Yeah.
The rest of the country just follows London.
Yeah, for sure.
Otherwise, it's London that's the biggest economy in the world.
I think of nearly any country in the world, the UK has one where the call it economic difference between the capital and the rest of the country is the most extreme. That's how crazy it is. So there's such a concentration of wealth, power, everything in London. I noticed it when I came down to London, and I've been here now, 25 years or something, right? I love London, don't get me wrong. I think London's an amazing city, genuinely do. But you look at it, and you look at that difference. You look at up north, you look at, all right, there's a huge disconnect here. I've forgotten how we got onto this question, sorry.
We spoke about because we were talking about the socioeconomic background and reality of American Muslims and British Muslims.
So I do think, so there's a few things actually. So if you look at American Muslims in general, the brain drain went there. Right, it was educated Muslims from the Middle East, from Pakistan, all that. They went to the US. The Labour came here.
The Labour came here.
So one thing we've
farmers,
done,
peasants, landowners,
all of that. So if you look at where we've got to a good place, no question. Now it's on us, this younger generation, right? So I try and help other Muslim startups and entrepreneurs because I'm like, this is where the future is. We need more of this. The older I've gotten, the more I've realised business is where the power is. Not politics, it's business, right? So we need more successful Muslim businesses. We need Muslim businesses using their clout, saying, all right, if we're going to do X, Y, Z, or if we want to do this, this is how we use our entity, our money, our influence, So for me, this is where the power is, whether you like it or not. And that's the game you have to play, whether you like it or not. We can be idealistic, we can be conservative, don't work with politicians and political parties. You can do all that, and you realise you end up talking to yourself. And I do think there's a balance, right? I'm not saying sell yourself out.
Do you believe in principled engagement?
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally do. And I do think so. I remember I spoke to...
Like, for example, when you were invited to Downing Street,
Same thing.
You used that opportunity to...
And I went there. My intention, before I went, because I was like, do I go to Prime Minister? There was the whole war in Yemen, which is still ongoing, right? And I remember telling myself, if I go there and I speak to her, that's what I'm going to ask her, before I even went. And I went with that intention. Alhamdulillah, I did. Right? And fair play. And I'm always like, and I still remember the lady she works in the civil service who invited me. I apologized to her, said sorry for making things awkward, and she was fair play. She goes, you know what, you had one shot and you used it. Good on you. You know.
Wicked.
So that was nice.
Were you ever invited again?
No, not really. So it's been a while. So yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath. Okay. But I just think more people need to be like that, where you're like, just be smart about it, basically. And I remember I had a politician reach out to me saying, about the whole Gaza situation and how, their Muslim MPs, etc., were getting a lot of backlash because they weren't being overtly or in black and white crystal clear about their position. But she's like, look, they're playing a game behind the scenes, right, of trying to have influence. And she's like, we have to be smart about it. And I can agree with that. And I agree it's hard being an MP, right, because you might be, whether you like it or not, you're constrained in what you can and can't say as an MP because you have a party line, you have all that stuff. Now, you could be the hero and go, you know what, like, I'm a Labour MP for argument's sake, let's say. The Labour position is stupid, Keir Starmer was completely wrong. You could do all that. Of course, you're out the Labour Party, and then you're like, well, I have no influence now, whether you like it or not. Or you say, you're pragmatic or slightly sensible in what you say publicly, and behind the scenes, you're working hard to go, okay, what are we doing? This is stupid. Look what you're doing to the Muslim vote here. This policy has to change. Now, I know the internet is simple, and I say the internet, I'm using it very, it has a very, and especially Muslims can be very polarized one way or the other, and they'll be like, no, these sellout MPs and all this stuff. I'm not defending all MPs, by the way. We definitely have Muslim MPs.
You're voting Labour this election, aren't you?
I'm not. No, I'm not.
Really?
I voted. I look in the council. Like I voted for Sadiq Khan because I think as London mayor, because I'm like, at the end of the day, especially as a Muslim in London, I'd rather have for all the ills of some of the things that Sadiq Khan does. Overall, I'd rather have him than what's out there. Again, you play the game. Really, it was between him and, what was her name? The Tory one, right? Yeah. Be smart. I can vote for someone else, and then you all kick yourself going, why have we got Tory as the London mayor, right?
Local elections, who did you vote for?
Now, I vote for Greens. Now, it's a hard one. Like in my constituency, actually, we have and shout out to Leah Mohammed, I think her name is.
Leah Mohammed.
So I remember and we have Wes Streeting as our MP, who I've never been a fan of. I just think he says what he needs to say to get ahead. Definitely, I'm sure that guy wants to be a Labour leader one day. And relatively, I would say he's a fairly decent speaker. Anyway, he's the Ilford North or whatever MP. I don't like his stance. I've never liked him anyway. I've never found him that likable. Leah Mohammed, Palestinian origin. Do I think she's the most experienced? Probably not. Do I think she cares about the cause? Yes. Do I think it's slightly tricky really only having one
single cause?
One single cause? Yeah, really. But for me, this is too important, and hence she'll get my vote. So I'll vote for her. I vote for Green. Otherwise, for the last X years, I voted for the Green Party. Why? Because I'm really bothered about the climate. B, I do think over time, and I don't agree with everything the Green Party are doing, but one thing I would give them probably is, I would say they're less hardcore capitalist inclined. They know there are certain things that we have to look after the planet, we have to look after people. There's a bit more fairness in their policies, which I'm not all for.
And they're not imperialistic either.
Yeah, exactly that. And I'll take that. I'll take it.
There's a whole conversation about, the kind of algorithms and the kind of pro-Israel propaganda that we were being fed for our newsfeed, and just the utter lies, whether it's the 40 beheaded babies were cooked in ovens.
The whole thing.
Mass rapes of hundreds of Israeli women on October the 7th. All these kind of lies that was used to dehumanize Palestinians and to justify the genocide that's now taking place, that was echoed and spread and disseminated by the biggest news organizations and biggest social media platforms, allowed it to be disseminated. The whole 40 beheaded lies will forever be remembered as perhaps one of the biggest dehumanizing lie of this genocide. And it was repeated and parroted by Joe Biden. Yeah. And in light of that, there was a whole conversation about a new launch, an alternative kind of Muslim media safe space. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so this is an idea I've had for a few years, and over time it's just become more and more apparent that Muslims, we need our own social network, right? We use these platforms. We use Twitter, we use Facebook, we use Instagram, whatever. you realize the power of the algorithm, and whether you like it or not, there is a power. You can control quite easily what a lot of people say, see, and interact with. More than that, you have posts. Sheikh Omar Suleiman, great example. He's posted himself of his post being him and his post being shadow banned, where he talks about, he's Palestinian origin. He talks about Palestine. He talks about a lot of things. I've noticed my own posts, if I have the word Palestine in it, it gets a lot less views on Facebook. Clear to see. So clear to see. So you can see there's this problem, right? Where we don't control our data, but we don't control our voice. For me, I saw this as a problem. I thought, right, obviously right now, Muzz, what are we about? You know, we're the app where Muslims meet, right? Or we used to be the app where single Muslims meet, right? The goal was everyone getting married. And then my goal was actually, no, it can be much broader. We can be the app where Muslims meet. We can help, you know, ultimately, you know, it might sound cheesy, it might sound naive, but if we can do one bit in hopefully trying to bring the ummah together, amazing, right? Across the world. So literally a couple of months ago, we launched what is the Muzz social network. Right now it's part of Muzz. So you can, now anyone can download Muzz.
There's a soft launch, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was a bit of a soft launch, but now you can pretty much, so it's only available UK, US, Canada, Australia right now. We're still working on it. It's a live product.
How many sign-ups you got at the moment?
Right now we have about 50,000 people on it every day. Every day.
Okay.
And posting more than thousands of posts, thousands of comments. You know, it's actually going really well.
But is it tailored around matrimony and linking up?
Not quite. So there's so there's twofold. Number one, you have existing Muzz users who have access to it within the app. But otherwise, you can sign up to Muzz. You can download Muzz, and you can just say, I'm just here for friends. I'm not here for a partner. You don't get any of that. You get a really simplified app, which is just a social network. So it's a bit of both in terms of who's using it. What's really good, women are really loving it. Particularly, it's kind of interesting because I think men are probably more active on the marriage platform and women are more active on the social network. We had women, female only, you know, I guess there's some of the differences. And I always say, when we came up with Muzz as the app for marriage, it was listening to how Muslims find a partner, all the quirks about Muslim marriage, and just tailoring our app towards that. You know, unashamedly, we're going to solve the Muslim marriage problem with all the weird ways that we do it, right? The same for the social network. For me, it was like, right, how do we listen to Muslims? How do we build a platform for Muslims? For example, the ladies-only groups, men-only groups, you can post anonymously. By default, there's the level of, and I say censorship, but it's more moderation. Inappropriate content, violence, all this kind of stuff, automatically either flagged or removed. Censorship around foul language, because no one wants to see that. In terms of the conversations, though, we've even got a group on there, Free Palestine. It could not be more blatant, right? For us, talk about these things. This is our platform to talk about these things. Now, no doubt, and you realize when you have these things, it's tricky because whether we like it or not, our app is listed in the App Store and the Google Play Store.
So anyone can sign up?
Anyone can sign up, but flip side, there's a level of, I don't want to say moderation, but the constraints put on us as a company, whether I like it or not. Because you have these two app stores who are the monopoly players globally, right? All the apps go through those. So there are certain constraints, but for the most part, we're trying to make sure we have as open a platform for Muslims. Now, for us, you know, my dream is you would have people like Sheikh Omar Suleiman, and we're going to be having conversations with him and others, where they're like, right, great, you know what? We're ditching conventional social media. We're going all in on our own platform for Muslims. And this is it. If we don't support it, no one else will.
So basically what, are you expecting big endorsements?
I hope so, inshallah. Yeah. Right now, we're keeping our head down because we're working on the product. I want to be happy with the product, the feature set, how it all works, making sure the way the feed works and the algorithm, the controls and the privacy and all this kind of stuff. Because it's hard to build, right? And that's what we're trying to do.
It's not linked to the matrimonials aspect.
No. Right now, it's the same app as such. But
because what I had one criticism is that is this just going to be a Facebook or a Twitter, but for people to hook up from there?
No is a short answer. No. Like, so one thing, even on the social network, you can decide if you don't want the opposite gender to be able to DM you.
Okay.
So you have a toggle for that.
Okay, wicked.
Simple. And why? Because you might be married and you're like, I'm just here for all the other stuff. I don't want any women messaging me. Amazing. You can do that. So things like that we've thought about. Okay. So it's no doubt. Right now we're launching it within Muzz. Inshallah, if this grows and it takes off, I'm convinced we'll spin it out into its own product. But right now, it just doesn't make sense.
Okay.
I'm under no illusion of how hard it is to build what we're trying to build. I'm sure people have tried it before and they've all died. For us, you know, I do think the time is now. We're you know, TikTok and it possibly being shut down and others. Great example of how they're trying to control the voice. The Muslim voice and just the voice and knowledge being shared and truth being shared, right? And for us, what we're trying to do is provide a space for Muslims. I'm like, if Muslims can't even unite, forget anyone else coming on our side if we can't even be on one side and saying, right, this is how we talk, this is how we organize, this is how we try and help each other to be more powerful as a community, right? And that's what I'm trying to help us get towards. Inshallah, long term, who knows where this goes? But I've always said it's one of the hardest things that anyone can do is launch a social network. It's one of the hardest things you can do. But we're here, like we're gonna give it our best shot, inshallah.
Is that one of your priorities at the moment?
Yeah, it's my. I call it a startup within a startup. You know, Muzz is the marriage platform. Alhamdulillah, you know, we're scaling up. You know, it's proved out. Yeah. It's a solid product. We're global. We're growing globally. You know, just mentioned our TV.
Multi-million-dollar company.
Alhamdulillah, you know, it's a success, right? We're genuinely changing. I've got family members who got married on Muzz, right? Anyone I meet, I get stopped in the street. Oh, I met on your app, etc. Right? It's crazy. Everybody knows someone, which is amazing. Alhamdulillah. So I think that is we're just scaling up. Make sure more and more people know, especially globally, about it. So that's that bit. Like I said, the startup within the startup is this social network. How do we help build this platform for Muslims? Be the app where 2 billion Muslims, where we can meet. Where's our own product? Why do we complain about Facebook and all these others and not use it? Still use it, sorry. Like why? If we aren't happy with it, and you go and my God, I made the mistake of going on Facebook. There's a lot of filth on there now. I was like, what the hell? Like, what happened here?
You
know, it's really strange.
That's quite recent, though.
Yeah, recent. Something's going on there, and I don't know what it is. And obviously, it's because probably there's a whole generation now who've moved on, at least in the West, who've moved on from Facebook to Instagram, whatever. The next tricky thing, and remember WhatsApp, the reports that were
Twitter's
out.
X done a comeback, though, since Musk took over.
X has, but then if you look at it equally, I think... I mean, whether it's hearsay, who knows? There was definitely a phase where everything was getting shared, especially pro-Palestine content, etc.
Then he took a visit to Israel.
And then he took a visit. And then you could detect there were changes in the algorithm. And I don't know to what extent the algorithm is still public or not. It used to be. I don't know if that's still the case. So
no, many pro-Palestine accounts are being shadow banned.
Yeah. But even that, there's plenty of things Elon has said which I would say are just straight racist.
Yeah, straight racist, straight
and I'm like, is that... Like, you look at it and you're like, wow... Do you want that kind of person?
And the accounts he chooses to amplify.
Exactly.
That he chooses to retweet, that he chooses to comment on, that he chooses to engage.
And I'm like, great. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying everyone ditch Twitter now. And potentially maybe that is the answer. But I'm like, be pragmatic, right? Let's be smart about it. We use the platform for hopefully what we can and how it helps us. Don't use it for other stuff. You know, and equally, you know, I'm not saying for us, but even others, so try and support the Muslim community and trying to build some of these tools that help us be a lot more independent of all this other stuff that's going on. We need to own our own story. Own our own tooling, own our own data, own our own resources. Because for that's where the power is. Otherwise, you're forever at the whim of somebody else on Twitter or on any other platform saying, you know what, anyone mentions the word Muslim, just downplay it. We don't want them talking. Thank you very much. Happen like that. It's one line of code. It's that easy. That's really mad. Is. And it is mad. And that's when you asked about, you know, potentially China and all this kind of stuff. It's too easy to do at mass. People, they open their app and they consume what you tell them. Literally, and that's the scary thing about it. You know, it really is. For us, we have a very simple algorithm that isn't too complicated. And we actually made a change because our initial algorithm was even simpler. And what we found was a lot of the, let's say, toxic and negative content was getting tons of traction. Now, I could have left that because it was great for our stats. And I was like, I don't think that's what we're about. And we'd made changes that hurt our metrics, even now hurt our metrics, but I think makes for a better place because it's more useful. I kind of remind myself with the social network that we're trying to build. I'm like, how do we make it? And you can kill time on it easy. I'm trying to answer how do I make it add value to your life? How do I help bring value to the Muslim community? We're not there yet. Like right now, we're like in the dark trying to figure this out. Right? Trying to catch that thing of great. Now we figured out local communities. One thing, and you know, one of the ideas I had, and this is how it works right now. Argument's sake, you're a Muslim woman in Leeds. You download Muzz Social. Automatically you get joined to the Muslims in the UK group. You get joined to the Muslims in Leeds group. You get joined to the Muslim sisters in Leeds group automatically. So already you've got a mini community, right? And through that, great.
As opposed to having to find it.
As opposed to having to find it. We've had plenty of women on Muzz already making friends on there, going out for dinners. You know, feeling sisterhood. Alhamdulillah, that's amazing. Guys are useless. I know we're lazy. I don't know. It's so interesting how different men and women are. But for me, I'm like, that is amazing to see. Because plenty of women have got in touch with me and with us saying, thank you for this platform. It has been really great for that. It's not all perfect. Definitely not all perfect. There's loads of stuff we need to fix, we need to work on, we need to get right. But for me, I'm chasing the good stuff. You know, I want to get that right.
What would be your thoughts on those who might be watching this and thinking, well, hold on, is Shahzad actually working on an alternative in the long run or just a safe space for Muslim women to have a jolly online? without the abuse,
No,
without the porno ads and the abuse and the kind of brothers judging them and stuff like that.
Personally, I see it as a little bit of twofold. So alternative, because no doubt, I think, look, ultimately these platforms are where the people are, right? And if we as Muslims are like, I'm interested in content that relates to Islam or content that relates to my set of values, great, you found your community. Whether you like it or not, and trust me, in a perfect world, none of us would waste time. Welcome to humans, we waste time. I'd much rather, it sounds weird to say, I'd much rather waste it on our platform, but a little bit. I'd much rather we were the place where they found that bit of value, right? Okay. Whether it's entertainment, whether it's the fun bit and the not so fun bit. I'd rather it's here. You're right, where hopefully it's a cleaner platform where you don't have less of that rubbish that's going on, where you're in a bit more control over who can message you and all that kind of stuff. So, like I said, just as I realized early on that building a marriage product whereby men and women get together, 1,000 things can happen, good and bad. Social networks, 1 million things can happen, good and bad. You know, it's definitely, I have some sympathy with social media companies. The sheer volume of stuff that's being produced, the sheer volume at which you're trying to figure out moderation almost on the fly. Things go viral, good and bad. You're like, oh my God, how do they catch this? You know, there were the live stream murders and stuff that happened on Facebook, right? And Christchurch, prime example. And I remember, like, obviously people were really upset at Facebook and how easy it was shared and stuff. But like me as a tech guy, I'm like, it's a hard problem. That's a really hard problem to solve. And I can see why it's difficult.
Took them 2 days. I think it took them a full 48 hours for Facebook to automatically cancel the upload of the Christchurch massacre.
But not only that, you get uploads of an upload of a slightly filtered one, of slightly changed ones to get around the detection.
Yes.
Like, and it's a moving battle. It's piracy, right? Yeah. It's like when people would pirate movies and they would do all these things to the movie so they couldn't get detected. It was old school, right? It's the same thing. So it's actually a really hard problem, you know, at scale. And so I've a little bit of sympathy. Now, don't get me wrong, these companies make a ton of money. And do I think they spend enough on all of that? No. Of course they don't, because in the list of priorities, monetization's first and moderation is way lower, right? If they're honest about it. So there's that. For us, I think definitely like the moderation and the safety bit, even for us, we take it very seriously. We spend a lot of time on it. It stresses me out a lot. I see bad things. You know, I've seen, for example, you know, a lady got in touch. She got scammed by someone. She gave him £50,000. My heart sank. It's real. It hurts me as a person because I'm like, oh my God. Like, I fell for it. She was like, I'm in debt because I gave this guy money. And I'm like, in my head, I'm screaming like, why? But it's real and it happens. And I'm like, what do we do about it? You know, and that was why we built, so for example, we built the thing around, if we block your account, I was like, we've got your selfie. We should see, has that same face then try to sign up again? We do all this other stuff behind the scenes, but that's another thing to add to our arsenal. And I could say, we did our best, is what it is. No. We're like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Because I genuinely care. You know, like it hurts me, but it's hard.
Exciting times to see where it's going to go, bro. It was an honor having you on.
Nah, thank you for having me.
It was a good catch up. 5 years overdue.
Yeah, a lot has happened.
A lot has happened, and I thoroughly enjoyed today, bro.
Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. Brothers and sisters and friends, I hope you all thoroughly enjoyed today's podcast as much as I did. If you liked this episode, do remember you can find it and all 3 seasons on all the major audio platforms. If you're tuning in via YouTube, do remember to click subscribe. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.